Hey, Brian. Hey, Beth.
Hi.
Good evening.
Hey, Jim.
Hey guys, I am still stuck at work, so I'm going to be on here, but I won't be able to talk for a little while. Jim's going to run the first part of the meeting. Once I get done with work, I'll do the tutorial that I was going to show and that kind of stuff. So I'm on here, I'm listening. I just won't be able to talk or anything right now for a few minutes, okay?
Oh, are you off for now, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm listening, but I'm going to mute myself so you can't hear me and you won't see me until I get done with work here.
Okay, in case there's a problem, is there any details about Saturday that you want to convey?
I'm waiting to see if Annie gets on the meeting tonight, but we talked about it a little bit last night as far as that goes. Details for Saturday. I'm thinking of a meeting place of the YM camera at 10 a.m. But I got to check with Annie because she's driving several of us out. And then we'll go from there because that's a few minutes away from the park itself. So that was kind of a meeting place out that way for people that were traveling on their own.
Okay. What is there an address or something we could use our GPSs for? I have no idea where this is.
I'll post it in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see. I guess we could wait a couple of minutes. There's not very many of us on yet.
Yeah, give it a few minutes, Jim. I'll keep an eye on that part as far as getting people into the meeting as they start coming around. So.
Alrighty.
How many people are going on Saturday? Do we know?
Last night it
Just
sounded
4,
like
right?
4 or 5.
I
Marty,
wasn't on last night, so maybe it's 5 or 6 now.
yeah, I can say Marty's not going to go. She had a death in the family today. So she's not going at this point, but there are a few people that are going.
Hello, John.
Hi, John.
That address is in the chat now.
Thank you.
That'll be for the camera store out there. That's where we'll meet at 10. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure that's going to be the plan at this point.
So Beth, did Zoom make you download again tonight?
Nope. And I didn't have to put in the meeting ID or password either.
I had to download and use the meeting ID and password.
Huh.
Ryan must have you flagged, Dennis.
Must. I'm abusing the system.
Let's see, I see Jim and Margie have come on.
Hey, everyone.
Hey,
Hi.
Hi,
Margie.
Margie.
Hi, Margie.
So we're waiting a few minutes for some stragglers to come in. Those of you who just joined, he's kind of on the call, but not on the call right now.
No.
He'll be joining us later in the evening. He's at work.
That's no
What's work?
excuse.
What was that last comment?
I
That's
forget
no
what work's
excuse.
like.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Hi, Suzanne. You're muted, by the way, if you're talking.
Okay, there I go.
There
Hi,
you go.
you. How's everyone?
Good.
That's good. Did I miss anything?
No, we're kind of waiting for people who are late like yourself.
Yeah, I know. You don't want to know what my day was like. It was
You can tell us. That's all right while we're waiting.
really bad. Oh, my son and my husband drive me crazy sometimes.
Is that unusual?
And my dogs. No. Sorry, I'll probably be putting myself on mute because my dogs are barking.
My dog ran up to the computer when she heard him.
Why don't you put your head up?
So she's right here and next to the computer looking at it.
They do this every time, sorry.
Wow. Good evening, Rex.
Good evening. Good evening. Maybe I should go over to my keyboard and hit a few really high keys and see if I can get them to sing.
Annie probably won't make it tonight. She says she'll try, but she don't get off work till 8.
Oh, okay. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because we're talking a little bit about Saturday's photo walk at Mill Creek Park in Ohio, and Brian didn't really want to bring anything up yet because I guess Annie might have more information to relate. So maybe when she gets back from work, she will get on the call and let us in on that information.
What kind of information? Because she just said
About
that-
where and when to meet, I think is the
Oh.
primary.
well, she just says that she's going to be, I think Melissa's riding with her. Brian may ride with her.
Brian was, at least that's what he
May
found
ride
out.
with her. And Melissa's riding with her. But
And these are all people that haven't been exposed to anything, right?
yeah, right.
They're all going to be in the same car.
Annie goes every place. So she could be a carrier for all you know.
Okay.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, it's almost 10 after 7 on my clock, so why don't we go ahead and get started. For those of you who are late arriving, I'm Brian is on the call, but he's at work doing some business, and he'll actually join us later on in the evening. So I'm going to kind of carry the weight of the meeting for the first hour or so, I guess. So you'll have to bear with me in the meantime.
Jim, before you get started, can I ask just a quick question here? I'm not a big Zoom user all the time.
Go ahead.
The camera is staying with me.
Me too.
I'd like it to change to the people that are talking, but I don't know what button on the interface to press.
In the
Point at the upper right-hand corner of your
right-
screen.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dennis.
Point at the upper right-hand corner of your screen.
Okay.
You see speaker view, exit full screen.
No,
If you don't see speaker view, it might have just a block of squares.
Nine little dots.
Yeah, if you
The
click
square.
that, then it'll go to seeing
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's start again. I'm in the upper right-hand corner and it's saying gallery view or full screen. That's all it's saying.
Go
Yeah,
to
me
gallery.
too.
Gallery view is the one with like the Brady Bunch.
So
So it
should I
should be
click
showing
gallery
everybody.
view?
and
Yeah,
they all come up.
It's up to you.
All right, I click gallery view. Okay.
you see everybody.
Yeah, I see
Yeah, now
everybody.
what I was looking for was to have the person talking come up on the larger screen, and then the other one somewhere else. I had that view, and it disappeared.
Yeah, me
Then
too.
click the thing that says gallery view and it'll switch over.
Where does it say gallery view?
Up on the upper right, you can,
Yeah.
if you keep clicking that same spot, it'll go back and forth between speaker view and gallery view.
No, it does not.
Left click it. Left click it.
Nothing happens when I left click.
Is it right over those squares?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I guess
Every
what
time
I'm
I-
looking for is
Yeah.
speaker view, and I don't know how to find it.
Well, I tell you what, John, Dennis and Beth were right, and whoever else chipped in. It's the gallery view button seems to control that.
Mhm.
Where is the
press-
gallery view button?
Up in the upper
Upper
right.
right.
corner.
Click it once, it'll say gallery view. If you click it again, it'll say something else.
Mhm.
It says speaker view.
Yeah.
And if I click that, I still don't get it. I get myself.
Well,
That-
because you're talking.
That's because you're talking, Margie.
No,
No?
Yeah.
even when I wasn't talking, I was getting myself.
Margie, I'm with you. I wasn't talking, and I'm getting myself. That's what threw me off.
Sometimes there's a lag time when it's set that way, and it doesn't always switch it to the active person very quickly. So sometimes you have to just wait, like click it so that if it shows a strip of people up at the top, then just give it some time and it'll come up with whoever's active, which at this point should be me.
Nope, not happening.
Not happening.
Yeah.
Are you seeing a full grid of everybody?
What
Yeah,
I'm
if
seeing,
I hit gallery view, there's all of them showing at one time. When I go back to speaker view, all of you are showing off to the right-hand side, and I'm showing in the middle.
Yeah, that's
Even
how
when
it-
I'm not speaking.
Don't know, Margie. John, sorry.
I
yeah,
don't know what to
that's
tell you. Mine's working fine, but I have a speaker popping up every time.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I do that,
I'm gonna get out and start all over and get back in.
maybe I'll
Hey,
try that.
Margie,
Maybe,
before you decide to do that, I'll just warn you, unless Brian's paying attention, I think he has to let you in.
I'm on, I'm paying attention.
Oh.
There he is.
Okay, I'm gonna leave and then come back in.
All righty.
I'm going to do the same thing. So, okay, sorry to hold you up, Jim.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
I'll just try it again.
Hi, Marty.
she's on the phone.
Hi, Dennis.
Hey, Rex.
We're in a pause, Dennis, while Margie and John log out and log back in.
Hmm.
Who's that lady in the background? Dennis.
Well, it's up at Shawnee State Park. We might know her.
I think so.
It's working now.
Good.
Okay.
Brian, are you there?
No, I'm not here.
Well, I know that, but are you present at the moment so I can say something to you?
Yeah, good.
You sure you want me to?
I don't care.
That's what I'm gonna say.
You
Anyway.
you can't give him a sign because you just have a picture up there.
Yeah, I know it. I can put another picture up there.
The ultimate
Town
sign.
Hall called me and said, this June and July, there will be no meeting there. In fact, they said there will be no meeting there until further notice.
Are you talking about the Ligonier Town Hall?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a problem. That's perfectly okay.
Okay. I just want to let you have a heads up.
Yeah, that's fine. We can continue those meetings right here. I think actually this works even a little bit better than sitting in that room anyhow. So,
Yeah, agreed.
yep. No
That's
problem.
travel time.
Okay, John, you're back. You're okay? You're muted.
There we go.
Coming back in, everything right now. I don't know what the problem was, but I'm in and it's working.
Okay, good. All right. We'll get started then. So let's see, just from a schedule standpoint for the club, Brian has his Lightroom/Photoshop class next Wednesday, July the 1st. And I think he's moving on from Lightroom to Photoshop.
Right.
And then our monthly meeting is Monday, July the 6th.
No,
No.
it's the second,
No,
second Monday.
is that not July the 6th?
No.
That would be the first Monday.
Oh, I'm sorry.
eighth. Yeah,
I'm
it would
sorry,
be
the
the 8th.
13th.
What? July.
Our meeting's the second Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right,
so it's the
which is
13th. I
13th.
apologize. And the photo challenge submittals are due Tuesday, June the 30th.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't already entered, get something in, hopefully. And I think that's it as far as notifications. Does anybody have anything they want to add before I get going here? I'll take that as no.
I had a video a day ago. Well, no, it was earlier today. I had a video that I needed to run, and I thought I might like to share it. And it had to do with shake, the sharpness shake, camera shake.
Image stabilization?
Really, it's a really, no, well, in the case of image stabilization not working, and the final image does have movement in it, I had one of the slides that I'm working on had that problem, and long story short, it's not going to solve it. The blur was so bad, but it did a pretty good job of bringing some of it together. Anyway, it's a really short video, and I'll during the evening I'll work my way to it and try to make it available. Okay.
All right, sounds good.
And
So
that's
Rex, just to be clear
like
then,
5 minutes.
this is software to try and take a blurry photo and make it non-blurry.
Right. Let's say you were photographing a little girl and she had a necklace on, and she grabbed the necklace, and she's moving all around and the necklace is moving, and you can just put it in the software. The software does its own first job of trying to take those 2 points that it sees in, say, like a necklace of pearls, and pull those pearls together. And when it does that, it's doing the rest of the picture as well. So I thought that it would be a night. It's probably 4 or 5 minutes. Not even 5 minutes, I don't think.
Well, that would be worth looking at, sure.
Yeah.
During the evening, I'll fish it out and I'll get the site ready.
Okay, sounds good. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Okay, so we had a Zoom light meeting last night, and I had mentioned, for those of you who weren't on the call, that I had one of my more productive 3 or 4 days of photography as far as getting a lot in such a short period of time. So I was going to go ahead and share those 3 or 4 days with you with just a few example photos from it. It was just kind of fun activities for me. So let's see here. Let me share my screen. So, so this, and I'll just give you a prelude to what this is all about. So last Thursday, it was supposed to be cloudy in the afternoon, or at least partly cloudy, and I didn't have anything else to do. So I decided a cloudy day would be a good day to go up the Laurel Mountains. So I went up on the Laurel Highlands hiking trail, right off of Route 30 and headed south. And for those of you who have never done that particular trail, it's really interesting. This first photo is an example of how rugged the trail actually is. So you do need to kind of climb over roots and rocks and whatnot to make your way through the trail. But what's really entertaining then is after about the first half mile or so, you're entertained with some huge rock formations that are just all over the place for about a quarter of a mile along the trail. So it's a real nice trail if you do like to get out and hike and haven't been there before. So, so that was the first day on Thursday.
Is that, Jim, is that trail the one off from the bog? There's one that goes off to the...
No, this is directly off of Route 30. As you go, if you reach the top of the mountain,
yeah,
and just start your way down, there's that, is it Walcott's restaurant or Wall something? There's a little restaurant on the right-hand side. And then just a few hundred yards beyond that is the trailhead parking entrance.
Okay.
It's really nice hike though. So, and then I'll show you a couple of photos from that. But then on Friday, it just looking outside, it looked like there was some really interesting clouds in the sky, and I thought it might be a nice evening to catch some sunset photos. So I golf over at the Norvelt Golf Course in Norvelt, and decided that might be a good location. So I headed over there Friday evening for sunset photos. And then on Saturday morning, they were anticipating fog in the area. So I got up at about 5 o'clock in the morning and headed out to Twin Lakes Park to get some fog photos. And then Sunday night was scheduled to be clear. And I had been wanting to get out and try to get a local Milky Way photo. And so since it was projected for clear skies, I got up at midnight, if you will, and went again over to Norvelt Golf Course and took a couple of Milky Way photos. And I'll tell you a little bit about it when we get to those photos. So there's about a total of 15 photos here that I'll go through. And I'll go through fairly quickly. But we already talked about this one. This is not the best photo, and it's hard to get a clear, uncluttered view of some of the rock formations. But this happens to be one of the formations that you come across along the trail. And there's mountain laurel everywhere, and it's in optimal bloom time right now. So a lot of that along the trail as well. And of course, there's fern everywhere up there along the hiking trail as well. So this
that last one
attracted me because of the 3 trees in the background.
That last one is really beautiful. I like that.
Yeah. and I don't have it in this example set. I forget, several of you occasionally will do photos where you intentionally blur the photo, if you will, at least portions of the photo. And I did this photo a couple of different ways. And the one was to reduce the clarity completely down to -100 on the fern. And it just gave it a painterly look, if you will, to the photo. I should have brought that one up as well, but I didn't. But that ended up a nice effect for this type of a photo, I thought. So that's just a quick look at my Laurel Highlands hiking trail day. Oh, I guess I should tell you, I checked the radar before I went, and there were storms in the area, but I thought it was clear where I was hiking. I got out of the car, got my stuff, went down the trail about 100 yards, and it started to rain. So I kind of turned back and waited the car for the rain to stop, and then went back out again. But I think
Jim,
that's why. Pardon me?
You might consider a little tighter crop on that foreground.
On which one, Dennis?
that you just had up.
The
fourth
fern?
one.
Ferns.
Yep.
Tell me about this one.
Well, you might consider just doing a little more of a 4x5 or even 1x1 crop.
Oh, a square.
There's a lot of green in the
Just to cut
foreground.
across here.
Yeah, maybe.
That might be a good suggestion. Thank you. What I was going to tell you on this first one is that it's, you can see everything's kind of wetted down there. So it actually made it nice conditions for some of the photos. So next I'll have a sequence of 4 or 5 photos of my sunset stint at Norvell Golf Course. And what's really nice about this location is that it gives you a clear view of the eastern horizon and Chestnut Ridge, and also a nice, not as clear of a view, but you've got a fairly decent view of the horizon to the west itself. So basically, by hopping between 2 different fairways at the course, I was able to get sunset photos from both the east and the west, if you will. But really, what got me out that night was you could just see the clouds in the area. Looked like there might be a good chance for some nice sunset photos. So this is from the first fairway on what's called Luke's Links, if you're familiar with the golf course at Norvell.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's out over Chestnut Ridge. Obviously, the clouds were kind of nice. And if you look carefully, this band here is actually fog or mist. I'm not sure. I guess you would call it mist, maybe. Low-hanging clouds, whatever, on the mountain itself.
In aviation, we call it SCUD.
Pardon me?
S-C-U-D. SCUD.
And
In
what's it-
aviation weather, it's called SCUD.
And say it again, what it stands for?
It
That-
just means what you just described. It's SCUD.
Oh, okay.
That's called SCUD.
Okay. And just to keep track, this photo, I made a note here, was at 8:09. So sunset was like at, I don't know, 8:55. It wasn't quite 9 o'clock itself. So this one was at 8:45. And you can see on the left-hand side over here, there's starting to be some colors in the sky over here. This I zoomed in a little bit more on the ridge to get the scud.
Beautiful.
And then I started noticing the clouds, and I thought, oh my God, what's going on here? And
Beautiful.
this area here, it just, and so the time for this is 8:58. This is almost exactly sunset. In the bottom half of that cloud, right at the very top of the mountain, it just started glowing. Now, this is I have to admit, this is a processed image. But to be quite honest with you, I didn't play a whole lot with vibrance on these things. So the colors you see on this are darn close to out of the camera colors that were in the sky that evening.
I remember the sky looking like that. It was almost freakish
Yeah.
because of the high luminosity, I guess you could say, of the pink in one spot. And it was basically only in that one spot.
Well, Right now it is, but let me show you. So this one's at 8:58. This next one's going to be 9:06. That's a wider view, and everything literally turned pink and purple.
Well, see, I didn't see it there. I just had one spot.
Yeah,
That's gorgeous.
it
Yeah, I
was,
like the paintery.
Mm,
I guess
it was,
that's such a word. Look.
It's like
it was
pastel.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those colors itself, you can kind of see now what I call fire on the mountaintop.
Yep.
It spread from this left edge and it just kept on coming across here. And then this next one is 3 minutes later, and this is when all literal hell broke loose.
Yeah, I remember.
They just lit up like a torch. Just really, really spectacular. And let's see. And I think I got.
Yeah, it was unreal looking. I remember that.
And then, so this was then just a couple of minutes later. And this was an attempted piano, I'm going to call it. But I got, you know, I still screw up so much when I go out for a photo shoot. So a previous photo that I had taken, I decided to get a portrait view. And I took it. And then I thought, oh, I ought to do a pano while the camera's in portrait view. But my portrait view shot was at, I think it was, well, actually, you can see it down here. It was 61 millimeters, so it wasn't like zoomed in real tight. It was the lens I had on was a 16 to 80 millimeter. But the problem is, as I started doing my pano, I didn't adjust the focal length of the camera, and my steps, if you will, the piano going from one to the other, I wasn't paying enough attention. So I think I had 6 or 7 photos. And when I stuck these into to on-one photo raw to do the pano, it dropped some of my photos. So the pano should have been wider than this, but I ended up with 3 photos in this to get this shot. So anyway, live and learn. So that was the end of the view looking out to the east. And the west wasn't too bad either. So there's a shot to the west, and this was at 9:20, I guess it was. So it was well after sunset itself, but the sky looked gorgeous. But really what drew me to this shot here was the scud in the hills there. I just thought it really made the photo.
You know, Jimmy might crop that to a panorama and get rid of that top third.
Oh, come across here.
Yeah. All right, see what it looks like.
Yeah, that sounds like a decent idea. Thanks, Ben.
Because the fog is dramatic.
It really is, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, you don't even need the colors in the sky
Yeah.
to appreciate the fog itself.
Well, you can always tone down the yellow / the gold color in there.
Yep.
Tone it down a little bit, and that would still give you a beautiful sky.
Okay. So I think that's it for the sunset photos. So this next set then was Saturday in the early morning, Twin Lakes in the fog. So this was at the, this is at the lower lake looking out. And again,
I like
talking
the
about
look.
personal mistakes, if you look here at the bottom, ISO 6400, this is the first photo I took when I got there. I grabbed the camera, put it on the tripod, and just snapped. And I took a couple of other photos in this general area and then walked into the woods where I was hoping to get some fog in the woods themselves. And when I got there, I realized that I never adjusted my ISO setting. I had it on auto ISO at this point in time. So if you were to zoom in, there's some noise in there, obviously. But I still like the photo just by the
Yeah, I do
funny
too.
look of it.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, even with noise, I think it's great.
If I were, let's see, I'm not sure if you can see it as well on your screen as I can here. But
Still looks good.
Yeah.
Not bad.
There's some, but it doesn't
well,
detract.
you might, I'm not sure going through Zoom how much you're seeing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the focus looks a little soft. Did you zoom it? Or is that a different photo?
Oh, no, I just zoomed into 100%.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that was kind of nice.
Yeah, I really, really like that.
Yeah, you should enter that one in the contest.
Well, see, you know what's funny is I was putting these photos together. Technically, anything I show you tonight, I can't really put in the contest.
No, that's good. Then we still have a chance to
So
win.
I saved one in my back pocket. You'll see it in that, maybe later tonight or tomorrow. I don't know. This is where I was really hoping that the fog would be. That any of you who happen to walk at Twin Lakes, this is through the woods at the lower lake, and I was really hoping there'd be a lot of fog in here just to give you that kind of look in the forest. And
Are you walking towards the upper lake or walking towards the lower lake?
I was walking up towards the upper lake, but this is looking back down the trail back towards the lower lake. You can kind of see here in the center some fog down there in the valley, but it doesn't, and you can, if you use your imagination, you can kind of see it over in this area a little bit.
You can add a lot more fog if you put it in Photoshop.
Well, and the program that Bethany uses on Photo Raw has applications too. You can do. I could have dressed it up. Yes, I could. I'm hesitant to do that, to be honest with you, because I feel like this is the photo I took, not something else.
Oh, I like getting creative. So
then I went around and back the other side of the lake, and there's a couple of ducks out in the water.
Nice.
That's nice.
I see you were down to 200 ISO on that one.
Well, yeah, all those. Yes, exactly.
You got that down.
Yep. Finally figured it out. I'm slow sometimes, I tell you.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, got ahead of
Beautiful.
myself. So that's the end of the fog photos. So then Sunday night, forecast with a clear sky, and there was no moon in the sky that night, so I thought that would be a good night to go see the Milky Way. And there was a tree on the first fairway that I've taken daylight photos of. It kind of looks nice. It's a white birch. And I thought that might be a nice foreground for a Milky Way photo. And I got to the golf course, and they had a floodlight on. And this tree is about 400 yards or so from the clubhouse. But that floodlight was so powerful, it's used to light up where they store their carts and the parking lot and whatnot. And I didn't realize how bright it was until I got out there at the end of this first fairway to take the shot. And I got to tell you, I like the fact that I was able to get the Milky Way. I need to do some work on this tree here, but that's the tree I was telling you about. Now, I had to do a little bit of work to get the Milky Way to show, because the floodlight was just, you talk about light pollution, it was just ridiculous how bad it was. But the one interesting thing, this tree trunk, apparently I had to do a little removal. There was a shadow of my tripod on this tree trunk. My tripod was directly between the tree and that floodlight I was telling you about. And it was kind of at the last minute that I noticed it there and removed it. So anyway, I was surprised I could get this result with so much light in the sky.
yeah.
You know, and the camera's behaving well. You're not getting a lot of starring patterns off the bright spots.
So it was a 20-second exposure at 1600 ISO. So it was pretty nice. So anyway, that's the last of my photo shoot. But it was kind of a fun 4 days to go out and get different types of shots, if you will.
Yeah, thanks for sharing it.
So let's see here.
Oh, I'm glad none of these are going into the contest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, the sunset photos in particular, that was my initial thought to enter one of those. But I actually have one from the foggy morning that you'll see that I thought was pretty cool. It's a very minimalist type photo. but
I
thought
love
it turned out
minimalist.
nice. Okay,
Yeah, favorite photos.
so let's see. I guess I need to share again. We'll go through the what's in the news.
Oh, is DL still here? Let me look. Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
Okay, that's. Can you see that from Petapixel?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
About the
Okay, I
Olympus.
wasn't sure I had it shared right.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Olympus is
this,
going out of business.
Mhm.
Olympus says goodbye. Is it, do any of our members use Olympus cameras?
I do.
Yeah.
You do?
I do.
Good one.
I have
Okay. They're selling the
3 of them.
camera portion of their business to this company called Japan Industrial Partners, JIP. So I guess the cameras will continue to be made. And maybe they'll continue to use the Olympus name. I don't really know. But I just thought that was interesting information. And
Yeah.
so Jim, was that you talking?
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, who said yeah? Okay, I thought I heard someone wanted to comment on this. But apparently Olympus has been having trouble making money on their cameras. What's this next one here? Okay, so Nikon is going to be releasing the new Z5 and Z30, what they're calling entry-level mirrorless cameras, sometime in 2020. There was no pricing information on them, so don't really have anything to share there. The Z5, let's see, so the Z5 is a full frame, and the Z30 is an APS-C crop sensor. I think that's the main difference between the two. I think otherwise their features are supposed to be somewhat similar. But the Z5 was supposed to have, or is supposed to have, a 24 megapixel sensor, dual card slots, and in-body image stabilization. So if anybody's out there searching for a new Nikon and want to get into the mirrorless cameras at, I assume, what will be a reasonable entry price, they're coming out sometime later this year. Anybody have any other information on those that they want to share at all?
I just looked up the price for the Z5 and they're saying about $1,500.
Oh, okay.
And hold on one second. But I went somewhere else and found that pricing.
Give him the oil schmidts from 74-1.
Mm,
Did you give him any?
no. So he needs the milk, the magnesium, and his heart medicine. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry guys.
That's all right. Well, Marty's looking, I am curious. So I'm using a mirrorless camera. Anybody else either using mirrorless or considering switching to mirrorless from the DSLR?
No.
I'm using the Sony mirrorless.
Okay. What model are you using, Jim?
I've used it in the past. I used it started out on a Sony, I think it's NEX like 5 or 7 or something like that. It was a while ago. And then I had a Fuji, I can't remember the model of it. I could look it up. I just don't remember. It looked like an old film camera. I used that for a while, but I could never really switch to full mirrorless because I do some sports photography and they're just not as fast. And I can't get that that I need out of it. But I have one. I use it kind of just as a carry around.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, what type of sports photography do you do?
Baseball, a lot of flag football. My brother-in-law has a flag football league, and I do photos for them. I've gone to different sporting events. I've done like a hockey game here and there, wrestling, volleyball once, a couple different things like that.
Okay, interesting.
All right, they said it could cost as little as $396 for the Z30.
Oh, that's really inexpensive then, yeah. Good. All right.
Well, if you want some history, here's a mirrorless. This was a mirrorless. Old Olympus mirrorless.
Well, it could have been old, Rex.
Huh?
It couldn't have been that old.
2002.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not realize they were made that.
Yep.
They must have been one of the first on the market then.
Fixed is the top view.
Okay.
A whole 5 megapixels, as I mentioned before.
All right.
And only $2,000 at the time.
Wow. That's a lot for back that far.
A lot for 5 megapixels. Yeah, we've come a long, long way.
Yeah. So this article talks about Canon coming out with the new EOS R5 and R6. But what I thought was interesting about the article is the N6 new lens. And if you can look right along here, a 600 millimeter and an 800 millimeter, so prime zoom lens, but with an aperture of f11. And so those of you who are more familiar with the technology on the use of lens, I understand that the larger the aperture, the more glass you end up putting into a lens. And if you're talking about a 600 or 800 millimeter lens, by default, it's going to be a beast of a lens. And I assume that this is their way to try to make a smaller zoom lens for those who want it. But I'm curious, does anybody have any comments on the whole concept of having the aperture at f11?
What makes the lens small?
Well, that's right. Is there?
Just need to be on a sunny day.
Yeah. It seems like you'd be limited though for that reason on what you could and couldn't use it.
It's the limitation is going to be the brightness of what you're shooting and the shutter speed you're able to use.
Well, and being able to crank up the ISO a lot farther these days, an F11 isn't that bad as long as you don't mind cranking the ISO.
Yeah.
In film days, you didn't want to go past 400, but so that's when F2 was great, but
Be interested to see what it looks like.
yeah.
Don't know if they have. Well, that photo you can't really see. I assume that's in the back there, but that doesn't tell you a whole lot. Let me see if there's, no, that's the end of the article. There's nothing there. All right, I thought that was kind of interesting. Okay, this one is, I don't know if anyone's interested in this or not, but Adobe's coming out with what they're calling a Photoshop camera app. And it can be used either on Apple or Android phones. And it's just, it basically is it takes over whatever app you happen to be using on your phone now. And it's the Photoshop version of it. So they have some little tricks built in. There's some artificial intelligence in it. don't know if there's a video here with it or. There's no audio on this, by the way.
Jim, I think this is also a free app as well.
It is a free app, yes.
Yeah, I read that last night.
Yep, you are right. That was it.
Wonder if that's to compete with On One's new thing that they're going to be coming out with.
This is completely independent of the Photoshop / Lightroom software. It's literally a standalone app.
Hmm.
And what the article did mention is, if nothing else, they hope to get, it's just their name out there, that people are currently using their camera, or I'm sorry, their phone for a camera, might just look into then possibly upgrading to the actual full Adobe programs. Okay. This one was interesting, and I think DL was on here earlier, or perhaps someone else could talk about this as far as the technology behind it. But this photographer took this beautiful photograph, and he posted, I guess, on Instagram, and people started downloading it to use it as a screensaver on their phones, and it locked up their phones. And apparently the reason was, and he didn't really know this at the time himself, when he saved the photo, he saved it with a ProPhoto RGB color space rather than sRGB color space. And for some reason, Android phones could not handle that. And it literally froze up the phones. So apparently, Google is aware of the problem and was trying to take steps to correct it.
Where did he post this?
Feel his photo.
It's a beautiful photo. Yeah.
Where did he post this?
I think he posted it on Instagram. Let me see. But the photo, there's a better look at the photo itself. Export and shared. Was shared on Twitter. Any ideas on that one, DL?
I have no idea. No idea whatsoever.
Okay.
I always thought the Twitter would go and they process anything they upload, and it comes out as SR. It should have been sRGB when it got posted. I don't know.
Well,
I'm surprised they would even accept it if it was in some other format other than sRGB. I don't know.
Well, don't try this at home.
Well, maybe they shouldn't have downloaded this picture anyways.
Yeah.
Maybe they deserved it. Huh? All right. So there's been an upgrade to the Nick collection. I have it's probably not, calling it the original isn't correct. I have the Nick collection from when Google was using it, I guess, and it was for free. And this DxO company has it now, and I guess you have to pay for it. But they just came out with an upgrade for it. And as this title says, I think that I think they've added some new filters and things to some of the applications. But one of the main things they added was this non-destructive editing feature, which would allow you, let's say you were doing a photo in Lightroom and you wanted to take it to one of the Nick applications and do some editing on it. So you send it from Lightroom over to Nick, and you end up getting a TIFF or a PSD back, I guess. But once you edit it in Nick and brought it back into Lightroom, you were stuck with what you got, other than doing some more work with it in Lightroom. The upgrade would allow you to say, oh, wait a minute, I want to take it back into Nick and do some additional editing. When you take it back, you kind of end up with where you left it initially. So you can re-edit what you had previously edited. At least that was my interpretation of it. Any
It's
comments?
a week upgrade.
What's that, Dennis?
I think I have the Nick Collection 2, which on the Mac supports the 64-bit programming, and I won't upgrade to this.
You say you will or will not?
Will not.
Will not. And why is that?
Well, for what they want you to pay, the value added is very small.
Ah, okay. I don't know if it has-
You get the impression that Topaz is sort of leading this add-on market.
How much is the upgrade?
So I'm looking there, a special introductory price, $100 for new users, $60 for upgrades.
I'd pass.
Yeah. It might be an interesting program one night, Jim, to do a review of Topaz.
Do you use it, Dennis?
No.
Oh, does anybody use Topaz?
The only thing Topaz is written by the people who started to write Nick.
Oh, okay. Now, I know they have the denoise program. Do they have other apps as well?
Yeah. No, they have a full suite.
Okay. Is anybody using Topaz?
Beth, do you use it?
No. At this point, I just use On One and Elements.
Yeah. I just use Lightroom.
Well, Dennis, just out of curiosity, do you want to take it on as an assignment to bone up on it at all?
I'll spend a little time trying to get a handle on Topaz and what they offer.
Okay. And speaking of other apps, just to let you know, later this year, and I think it's for the SWG meeting, I'm going to do a review of On One Photo Raw because I used that last year. Although Beth, I think, might be able to get her to chime in on that discussion since she's using it full time. I just use it part time right now because the application I am using, Capture One, isn't as extensive as On One Photo Raw. And then we're also going to do a review of Luminar, which is really a cool program. Okay.
Hey guys, just a real quick thing. The Topaz, the biggest thing with that is their bundles are expensive. From what I can look at, I'm looking at their website right now. If you want to do just the denoise bundle, it's $79.
Oh.
Just denoise. They do what they call a utility bundle, which has sharpen, denoise, JPEG to RAW, and gigapixel. Which gigapixels for enlarging your photos really large.
Yeah.
That bundle's $195 right now.
Oh, wow.
And then the creator bundle, which is a mask, Topaz Studio, Studio 2, which is their editing software, and Adjust AI. That bundle's $150, typically $279.
Yeah.
Well, Dennis, maybe you should withdraw from. Put out some big bucks.
Yeah, the club will fund it.
The club will fund it.
That's the problem with the Nick, the DSO Nick upgrade. It's $100 to buy it.
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure you get $100 worth of value.
Yeah.
You can still find the free version floating around.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think you can still download it from Google. Maybe
I'll
not.
look for that there. I haven't seen it there in a while, but I have a couple copies of it. It's kind of too big to mail, but we meet up someplace.
Okay. So those of you using Lightroom and Photoshop might already be aware of the recent update. And I'm not, but I'll get the conversation started. From what I've read in the article, the major, at least my interpretation of the major upgrade for Photoshop was in the, using, again, artificial intelligence, the select tool. And it's funny because Brian did a hair selection, one of our SWG meetings not too long ago. And apparently they've upgraded the technology. So here's an example of, there's the original image, and on their previous select tool, what they could get out of that, if you will. So it wasn't very detailed. And then with the new select tool, they really get down to the individual strands of hair. So that looks pretty impressive to me. And I think that was the big deal on Photoshop, unless someone else has anything to add that they saw or are familiar with. Okay. And then Adobe Camera Raw, which is, of course, just the built-in equivalent of Lightroom in Photoshop. They've updated it, and apparently my impression there is they simply updated the user interface so it looks and feels more like Lightroom than it did before. That was my impression. And then Lightroom itself, Lightroom Classic, I think Rex actually mentioned this last night during the SWG Light meeting. And I remember when I used Lightroom previously, when you did like selections using the brush tools and whatnot, not all of the editing tools were available along with the area that you masked with the brush. And they just added this local hue adjustment. And you can see by the video here, they're showing changing the colors of the flowers individually. And then the other thing that I thought was interesting on the Classic update, well, not this one. This was a centered crop, I guess, that wasn't available before. But the other things that they mentioned in the article was this ISO adaptive presets, which I thought was kind of cool. So if you brought in two photographs, one at 200 ISO and one at 2000 ISO, you could set up presets so that it would look at the metadata and decide, oh, this is a high ISO photo, I better increase the denoise that I add to it as you're importing the photo or as you're editing the photo. So that seemed like a pretty cool time saver. And then the other thing was performance improvements. And the other day I saw a video on this where when you edit the photo, as you're editing the photo, it doesn't show it shows the edits on your main screen, if you will. But like in your browser panel, it won't show the edits until you release, I think the idea is if you're changing something and you release the mouse, so you kind of set it, then it'll update the previews, if you will. And that supposedly just improves the overall performance from a speed standpoint. So I don't use Lightroom. Any of you have used the upgrade and want to comment on this?
Downloaded it, but I wouldn't comment on it.
Rex, have you looked into it anymore? Did Rex stay on, or is he? Oh, there's Rex. You're muted, Rex. If you were going to say anything.
Sorry about that. Yeah. No, I haven't used, yeah, I'm interested in that ISO adaptive. I would like to learn how to use that. I don't know how to use that, and I need that. I need to try it. I need to evaluate it to see if it still gives me control or if it takes out of control what I want, because sometimes I'll go in 4x or 8x to see just how much grain pattern is there. And I want to study what I do against what it says between a couple of different ISOs. But no, what I was saying that I do use is the saturation hue feature, the new slider that's underneath the gradient tool, and the lost it, the circle,
The brush or the
radial brush.
No.
The radial, not a brush, radial tool. The radial tool has it, and the gradient tool has it.
Not the brush you're saying?
The brush has it.
Oh, okay.
The brush does have it, and the radial tool has it. They both have it, and I've used it, and I like it because you can go in, and by using the feathering, you can go into a part of the picture and change the color. Like, imagine you're looking at a slide that's 20 years old, and it's blue on one side and magenta on the other, and by the grace, there is something that looks like good color balance in the middle, and then you can go on either side of it, and you can try to bring back what you see in the middle, and that tool works very good for it.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks, Rex. Anybody else have any comments on the Lightroom update? All right, we'll check it out. So here's on some photography awards. It's always interesting to see what type of photos win some of these. This is the Sony World Photography Awards. So we'll just go through some of these. Some of these look good, and well, obviously this is some type of a composite image. At least I assume it's a composite. I don't know if I like that one myself. I don't know if that's Jack Nicholson, but it looks like it could be. I think that's what Brian looked like when he lost that sale tonight.
It's a little bit like Alfred Hitchcock. No, let's shoot it again.
Okay, this is student photographer. That's kind of interesting looking. I don't know what the devices are on top of that block, whatever it is.
Like an air conditioner.
Well, I would say, yeah, the one towards the center almost looks like the air conditioning.
Well, here's what I'm seeing in a. I'll tell you what I see when I look at a photograph like this. What I'm thinking this is what the photographer was going for. Texture. He was going for dark and light. Look at the top half, look at the bottom half.
Yeah.
Two completely different messages there.
What's the point?
Well, it looks like he's trying to cover everything that a juror would look for.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, good point.
If the juror likes texture, it's there. If they like gradient, it's there. Not the gradient, but the different shades of gray, if you want to call it, different tonality. There's curves. If you look at the wire to the pole and the mountain, they sort of match that. If that's a mountain, if that is a mountain in the background,
it looks like it.
Up, and so the wire curves up, and you've got some sky. It's outdoor. Interesting. There is a shadow coming off of those unidentifiable boxes, which look like maybe air conditioners or fans. There are some cables going to them. You can see the cables going off to the left-hand side. The idea, I think, is when you're putting art in a gallery, you want people to spend a long time looking at them. And if it just doesn't bore you right away, they've got you. Okay, so you're looking at it, you're trying to figure out, and they got me on this one. I'm trying to figure it out too. Just what is this message? But I'm still looking at it. I'm not saying, okay, I saw it, let's go get the next one. I'm not doing that. I'm still looking at it, trying to figure out what was going on with this person, he or she. I see texture, I see gradient, I see pattern. It's not 50-50. It really isn't. It's more like maybe 65 something, 35, 40, something like that. 60-40.
Well, thanks, Rex.
Yeah, tossed it in there just to see.
Street photo. If that's his tie, he's walking pretty fast.
Yeah. The tie makes that photo.
The darks are really dark. But then that's classic early 35 millimeter photography. I'm immediately seeing, who was it? They captured the guy jumping across the mud puddle.
Henry
Bresson.
Henry Cartier-Bresson.
Bresson.
So I didn't notice this one before, as far as it looks like there's text on the this little where the stove is, I guess, for the hut. But I think the colors on this one kind of pop out at you.
What was the description on that last one?
Ice fishing hut. You want to take a look?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Lake Winnipeg.
Yeah, I was curious if it had any more about the text on it or not, but
Yeah.
something about the typology. But, no.
But it's,
Rex, this looks like one you might have done once upon a time.
yeah, oh, I love it. That was our kind of work, Carol and mine.
You know what's interesting about this photo? Without her holding the phone, it would have been a good photo.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't it strange that the phone is in the photo?
All I can say is I think it's a little taste of today. It's a little bit of today. It's a time frame. It gives it it helps place it in time. The best way I can say it.
There's a bit of,
If it had been an old, dial phone or something like that, that would have placed it in time there too.
Dennis, were you going to say something?
there's a, I'm not sure what the right word is. You have the breastfeeding and you have modern iPhone, and the contrast between traditional breastfeeding and something as contemporary as a phone. It's interesting.
It just kind of captures you. You just like want to look at it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
If you take the phone away, it almost looks like a picture that would have been hand colored from years ago.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the toddler looks, or the older kid looks like she's hand colored.
Yeah.
And it's an older style of dress.
Yeah.
It is.
It's interesting. I guess that's a low key photo. That's kind of, actually, when you look at it, it's kind of cool.
It's called rim light,
Yeah.
R-I-M.
Well, what's funny is if he didn't have glasses on, I would have been as intrigued with the photo, but that one lens sitting there. Okay, looks like an industrial waste site flaring off some gas or something or another. Here's a minimalist. I like this type of photo.
My question would be, where do you go to get it? What's the story? Okay, I want to do that. Where do I have to go? How many thousands of miles?
There's an anteater.
It's a pangolin.
It looks huge, doesn't it?
About the size of a dog, aren't they? A small dog.
Whoops. So, are we to assume it's the same kid? Or two kids growing up in different cultures? They don't look the same, so I guess it's two kids
No.
growing up in two cultures.
Yeah, they don't look anything like.
Yeah. I don't know. That one doesn't do anything for me.
It is the same person.
Oh, it is. So there's a story behind this one, but the photo itself doesn't tell you the story.
Go back. The eyes don't look the same.
The lighting is very different.
I like the one on the left.
The shirt says Coney Island.
Rex, if you're talking, at least on my end, I cannot hear you.
Oh. Yes.
I hear you.
Can anybody else hear Rex?
No, well,
Rex, something's going on with your mic.
Okay. Let me turn it off and turn it on.
Oh, wait, there you go.
Okay.
Now I can hear you. So what were you saying?
I said his shirt looks like it says Coney Island.
Interesting. Not sure what sport they're playing. Oh, the wrestlers.
Wrestlers.
I guess they must be just working out. Wow. There's one for today's world. That's the end of that one. So, Brian, I noticed I saw you back. Are you ready to do your thing?
I'm back. I can.
Okay. I had a couple more, but they were all just reviewing photos like we just went through. So based on the time of the evening, it's probably best to turn it back over to you.
Okay. Alrighty.
So, oh, I gotta take away my share here.
Go get some water. Go get some water. Okay.
Hold on here.
I fixed it for you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I could not see that.
All right. So in the chat, I uploaded 3 photos. If you want to follow along and use the photos, you're welcome to. It's up to you. But our subject for tonight was going to be turning daylight into dark. I believe is the right direction we were going. I hope so. That's what I'm going to do. So let me share my screen now. And you guys should see Photoshop.
Yep.
Okay. Move that over here a little bit. All right. So we're going to do turning daylight into dark. And basically, we're going to take that picture and end up with something like that. And I'm going to show you how to do that. It's actually not too hard. I found out today, I didn't know this, but you can go to Adobe Stock through Photoshop, a thing called Libraries in Photoshop, and download photos. They're just going to have the Adobe Stock logo on it for free. And then you can do them to fool around practicing these things using those photos. So if you don't have photos that you want to use of your own, you can do that quickly from Adobe Stock for free. But I thought I would show you this one here first. So this is a daylight shot, and this can be turned into a nighttime shot in basically one step. Very easy. So I'm going to show you how to do that, actually. So daytime shot, landscape, I'm going to go into my layers panel. And down here where you do the different types of layers, I'm going to choose a color lookup layer that I'm going to add to this. And on there's one called 3D LUT. We're going to go to that, and there's some ones that are automatically in Photoshop. These are included in there, and then you can get LUTs from other places. But there's one on here called, actually there's one on here called Late Sunset, which I wanted to show you. It's actually does a pretty nice job of making this a evening sunset picture. But if you wanted to make it a nighttime shot, there's moonlight, and you're done.
Huh.
That's the end of my tutorial. I'm done. You guys can have a good day. Unless you want more. I don't know. If you want more, I'll show you something else. But I thought that was pretty neat that those are in there. And I know you see LUTs a lot available when people are selling LUTs and stuff like that. I've never really used them until this point, but I can definitely see a purpose for them. And there's some other ones in here that I thought were interesting. Here's a night from day. It's pretty close to same. Soft warming. Bleach bypass. That's weird. I've used that in some other stuff years ago. But I don't know. Anyhow, those things are pretty quick. You can put them on with no problem, and they do a pretty nice job. I mean, that's a pretty good shot of taking a daytime shot and turning that into an evening shot. So, all right, I wanted to show you that. So the next step is, let's get rid of that. No. We're going to start with this picture. Move it over here. We're going to start with this picture. We're going to replace the sky. We're going to put a moon in it. We're going to turn some lights on it. We're going to make it dark. And end up with something similar to that. I'm not perfect at this, but at least gives you the idea of how to switch something from daylight to dark. So we're going to start by replacing the sky. To do that, we need to select the sky. So I'm going to go up and just grab my quick selection tool and get in here and select my sky. Now I did learn a new trick today that if you hit the letter Q, it shows you the area that is not selected. And then you can use, instead of trying to use your selection tool to get back in there to do selections, you can just go in and add and use a brush now and brush in, oop, I got the wrong color, brush in black and brush in to complete your selections. Of course, I'm not doing this perfectly, but you guys get the idea of it. And you can, of course, make that better than I did, but for tonight's purposes, that's good enough. All right, so once I do that, I'm just gonna hit the letter Q again and turn that back off. You see now I have my selection there. For that, we're gonna add a layer mask to our selection now. So we do that just by hitting the, remember the Japanese sign down there? Put a layer mask on. But the part that we want to replace is not the part that's missing. So we want to switch that. So I'm just going to do a Control I and do an inverse so that makes the sky disappear. So now the sky is gone and our building's still there. And I'm simply just going to go over to my nighttime sky picture. Click on my move tool, grab that and just drag it back to the here and back onto the picture and then let go. So now it's on there. We'll grab the layer and put it below the first layer. Now it's behind. And there's our moon and sky in the picture. If we want to adjust where that is, we can. I'm going to put the moon over here a little bit more, I think. And just do a Control T, and that'll allow me to hold the Shift key down, and I can expand that out a little bit. Get it to fill in, double click. And there we've changed the sky. We've put a nighttime sky in. And we've got everything kind of where we want it. I got a moon in there. I've got the night sky in there. So now we need to turn the rest of it into nighttime. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and apply the LUT that we just did a second ago that I showed you. But I clicked on the layer that has the houses in it or the buildings in it. And we're going to apply that LUT by going back down here to Apply Layer, Color Lookup. And I'm going to go down and use that Moonlight LUT. Now that covers everything, and it also changed my sky too, which I didn't really want it to change my sky. So if we hit this little box with the downward arrow on it, we can do that, and that puts it just on the layer right below it and not both layers at the same time. So basically it clips it to the layer with the houses on it, and it leaves our sky alone. At that point, we're done with that panel. I'm looking at my notes as I do this, guys. So we're going to actually just turn this layer off for right now, because what we need to do is turn this into the yellow for the lights and stuff like that we had into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer. Or no, first I'm sorry, ahead of myself. I'm going to click back on that layer, and then I'm going to do a curves adjustment layer there. Same thing, I'm going to click on the little half circle and do curves. And on the curves, we're going to go to the blue channel, because the blue channel covers the yellow. And we're going to take that and get some yellow in the picture. Bring this down a little bit. And it don't have to be, whatever kind of yellow that you're looking for. That looks pretty good. I do want to brighten that up a little bit, so I'm going to go back to RGB and just kind of make that a little bit of a brighter yellow area. Okay, so now that I've done that, my next thing is I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of this layer. I'm going to take that layer, the layer with the houses on it again, and just do a copy, which is a Control J. And then I'm going to drag that layer and put it right below the one that says color lookup. And things look strange, but that's okay. I'm going to right click on that layer and I'm going to remove, I'm going to right click on the layer and I'm going to remove the release. I'm going to release the clipping mask for it. So now we have a color lookup, layer 0 copy, curves 1, and a layer 0. And then our layer 1, which is our background, our sky. And I know that looks weird up there. Don't worry about that at this point. I'm going to take the first two and just put them in a group together. So if I shift or control click on both of them, I can do that. And then Control G allows me to put them in a group. And I'm going to name that night. Night. And then I'm going to take the second two and put them in a group as well. Control G. And we'll name that daytime. Now, each one of these groups, if you notice, it has the blending mode is marked as pass-through, which we want to change that back to normal. I want to go ahead and change that back to normal. And now you see my sky fixed itself up there. I'm going to do the same thing with the other group, back to normal. And now we have a night, a day, and a layer 1 up there. We're going to click on the night group. And we're going to put a mask on there. Something doesn't seem right. Give me 1 second, guys. Something doesn't seem right. This does this to me all the time.
Do you need to click on the left side?
No, that should be.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be dark right now, and I don't know why it's not dark right now. Layer mask. I hate it when I make notes and I follow the notes to the T and it doesn't do what it did the last time I did it. Set groups and pass through normal.
Well, Brian, when you made the yellow, it was all over. Is that where you need to like mask it to just the windows and the lamppost?
Yeah, but where my layer that says night is the one that should all be dark right now so that I can add the yellow in from below it. And I don't know why it's not. That's right. That's right. I hate this. I really do, guys.
You just proved to me that I don't want to learn Photoshop.
I've done this. I've done it 6 times today while I was sitting at a desk. And every single time it done exactly what it was supposed to do.
That's how it did.
There, now it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Okay, to look at all the layers in their finished form.
Yeah, I see. This
When I
was this was shut off.
There you go.
So it's back on. Okay. All right, guys. Lesson to be learned. Make sure your layers are turned on before you start moving forward. All right, so I'm going to use that night layer, and I'm going to go ahead and put the mask on it again. All right, so I have a mask on there, and by using the mask in black and a brush, we can go in here and add light in, and it's going to basically be the yellow from underneath, if everything goes right, coming back through the. Hey, look at that! It's yellow.
Ooh. So Brian, I mean, I kind of understand what you're doing. What surprises me is that yellow layer didn't look that bright in yellow as it's showing here. Is there some type of a blending that's going on at the same time?
No. If I turn that off, there it is.
I guess it's just the optical illusion that
From the dark to the light. If you look at,
Yeah.
if you really look at that, it's not changing color at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put some light there. Let's turn on the light in the window.
Can you do red lights?
We could have if we would have made the bottom layer red.
Just
And
looks
again,
like one of those districts to me, that's all.
And again, if you were doing this, you of course would be a little bit more careful than what I am right now. And I'm gonna turn this light on down here in this window. And if you got straight lines that you want to do with, if you do a click there and then shift and click down here, it'll do that. And then shift and click over here, and then shift and click there, a little bit there. Makes it easier to get your outline. All right, so that was in an
Hey, Brian, I'm sorry. Do you have control of the opacity of that mask if you didn't want it quite as bright?
Absolutely, yes. Which I'm going to do something here in a minute that'll kind of make an adjustment there.
Okay.
When I did the windows at 100%, they worked better. But now we're going to put some light on the street and show where that light is actually shining at. So we're going to do that with a little less opacity. We're going to make sure that we have a brush that has 0 hardness to it. And we're going to go into the opacity and get that down around 40%. So, and let me get you a little bigger brush. And we're just going to take this and add in our light coming off out of the window. Same thing here. So this light would be coming down, and we'll put some light in on the street here that's coming off of that. Now this light would also, when you do this, you want to kind of keep an eye on where light would go, where you think light would go. So this light would also be kind of lighting up this wall back here a little bit. But I'm going to take that down a little bit more in percentage wise, probably around 30 or so, and just kind of add some light in behind the wall here. You kind of get the idea. Like I said, I'm not doing it perfect because of time-wise and stuff like that. Another thing that you would want to look at is, I'm going to take the opacity down here to about 25 or so percent. You'd want to look at is like highlights, where the light would go on a highlighted area. So like here, this light would highlight this top edge of this flag probably. So if I make a nice small brush in here and just add a little bit of light up across there, for that. Maybe it lit up a little bit more of this flag here, kind of thing. Probably catch a little bit of light in here, a little bit more light there. Throw a little bit extra on the bench. So you're kind of adding your, basically like in portraiture, your catch lights in to where light would be a little bit more prevalent. Oop. You gotta kind of get the idea of it. So we've added some light and stuff like that. So now once you've done that, a good thing to do is to go into filter and go to blur and Gaussian blur. Bring that over here so you can see what I'm doing. And what we're going to do with that is just basically take that light and blur it enough to where it just kind of starts to glow a little bit. Not that much, but you see how you're getting a little bit of a glow out of the light itself. Kind of softens it up a little bit. Now the next thing with this I'd like to see is where does the light source come from? Like in the light, we see that the light's on, but there's really not a light source in there. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. And I'm going to pick a color. Bring my color picker back over here. And I'm just going to pick a color out of the light. And I'm going to make that brighter than that. So somewhere in that neighborhood, nice and bright. I'm going to use 100% opacity for my brush this time. And let's get in there and put a light bulb in. So in this one here, I think the light bulb would go towards the bottom of that and maybe stand up just a little bit. Kind of like that. And then over here, I'm going to do the same thing. There's a little light in here I see popping out, and we're going to just drop a light. The light bulb right there. And then the same thing, I'm going to actually do a Gaussian blur on that. Just so, blur and then Gaussian blur. And this is a much smaller blur because we don't want to get rid of the light bulb that we just put in there, but we don't want it to look like a dot that we put there on purpose. Like that. There you go.
That's pretty cool.
Now, in this one here, I kind of like the sky in this one. I don't know, I might, if we throw it on let's throw a layer on the sky. Or no, that ain't what I want to do. Let me see what I did last time. I know what I did. Let's do a curves layer on there. And let's give the sky a little bit of a yellow tint to it as well, just to kind of give the moon a little bit more of a look to it. I don't know if you guys can see that difference on Zoom or not, but I think just adding that little bit of a yellow tint to the sky kind of helps out with things.
Yeah,
The sky itself, I like the look on it, but that the halo around the moon doesn't look real to me.
Well, I don't know if I could fix that or not. That's not my picture. I got it from Adobe stock.
Yeah.
But there's a picture that was a daylight picture that we turned into dark.
Nice.
That's pretty cool.
Well, I was taking notes, but I hope it looks like you're recording, so I can always go back if I want to do it.
I am recording, and I will send out handwritten notes for this as well. Well, I'll type them because y'all can't read my writing, because I was having trouble reading my writing. So, but no, I'll type up a set of directions to do this. And actually, I found this this basic exact tutorial I pulled from a YouTube video that shows how to do this. But of course, you know, as with everything, a little bit more practice, a little bit more adjustment as far as your brushes go, and that kind of stuff makes it better. You know, a little bit more. It's not 100% believable now, but you get the idea of it. But you definitely can do a lot with it. So, all right. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing. We're back. I did upload those pictures into the chat of the exact same pictures that I just used. If you want to fool around with them, you're welcome to download them and try that process with the same exact pictures. Everybody's so quiet. I can see the sunset from here. It's looking pretty good.
No, Jim's is anyway.
I'm still sitting at my desk at work, guys. Everyone's went home. I'm left here by myself.
We're
You
here.
get locked in.
We're here for you.
What was that, Beth?
You gonna get locked in?
I already locked it in. I already locked myself in. I'm good.
So did you get the sale?
No, they never showed up.
Oh, wow.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, it happens though, a lot. I did get one sold for tomorrow though, so that's a good one. Yeah. Actually, I got two going out tomorrow. All right, guys. Anything else? Any questions? Anything? As a recap on what I talked about right at the beginning, the outing is Saturday. My intentions, once I hear from Annie, which I haven't heard from Annie, but my intentions are I know that me, Annie, and Melissa are riding together. Going out there. I'm thinking if anyone was wanting to follow us, we could make arrangements for that, or otherwise we'll meet out at YM Camera. They open at 10 o'clock. If anyone wants to go in and spend some money that they don't have, it's a good spot to do that at. And then from there, the park is only 5-10 minutes down the road. So that's a good spot to meet. And then move down the road and start into the park at the probably at the Lanterman's Mill, and then go from there.
You want to tell them where Annie likes to meet if somebody wants to follow?
If somebody wants to follow, well, I have to check with Annie, but most of the time we meet at the
Cracker Barrel, I imagine.
No,
we meet at the parking lot for the Turnpike down at Irwin.
Yeah, on the left-hand side will be the mall, or a big strip center. You can see it on the hill. In the right-hand side is a big parking lot.
Yeah, it's right at the intersection down there where 30 and 76 come together at Irwin. There's a park and ride place. So if anybody is wanting to follow, please inform either myself, Melissa, or Annie so that we know where to go there and meet you. Because I don't believe any of us are going there to meet Annie. I'm going to meet Annie at her house, I think.
Yeah, Melissa is too.
Melissa is too. So we'll be leaving straight from her house. But if anyone wants to follow, we'll come down there and meet you at the parking lot. Otherwise, we'll meet out at the out at YM Camera for our day of photography. So, actually, our first time out since February. I believe our last trip was in February to. Did we go to Phipps? Is that where we was at last?
It was January, it was Phipps.
January?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where we were in February, I can't remember.
I can't remember offhand either where we went in
I'm
February.
pretty sure I was there, but I don't remember.
Aviary. When did we go to the aviary?
Oh, we went to we went to see the birds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was February was aviary. We went cuckoo at the birds place.
And stayed that way.
Yes. So, all right. Anybody else have anything else they want to mention or anything before we end the meeting?
Oh, Rex, did you find the video you wanted to show?
I was trying. I'll tell you what, if you look in the chat, if there's a chat log there, I tried to get it, but up there at the top it says, if you can, one of you type in, or actually maybe Brian, type in how to reduce blur using shake reduction in Photoshop. That should be the right video, YouTube video that comes up. And I thought that it was worth looking at for all of us because it's there in Photoshop. It's fairly easy to use, and it's the software that does most of the work. So if you can get that one up.
Give me 1 second until I get through the ad.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey everybody, Howard.
It's only about 4 minutes or something. It's really short.
It look like it there, Rex?
That's the right one.
All right.
Yeah, just full screen
Take
that.
a look at one of the new features coming in Adobe Photoshop CC that everybody's been looking forward to, shake reduction, which was called the deblurring tool at Adobe Max, which caused a little bit of confusion. So before I show it to you in action, I want to stress what it does do and what it doesn't do. Now, it does not fix out of focus images. So if you were taking a photo of something 3 feet in front of you, but mistakenly focused on something 8 feet in front of you, you're out of luck. This won't fix that problem. However, if you were taking a photo and someone nudged you a little bit and that camera shook, this feature will help by reducing that camera shake and sharpening up your image. Let me show you exactly how it works. Before we go ahead and add any filters, I always want to make sure to convert it to a smart object, just so I can go back and make changes later on if necessary. Now that that's done, I can go to the filter menu, down to sharpen, and then shake reduction. Now when this launches, Photoshop is going to automatically start detecting which direction that blur is coming from, and it's going to do its best to sharpen up the image as nicely as possible. And you can already tell it's done a pretty nice job. If I turn off the preview and then back on, it's already sharpened up quite nicely. But if I press the Q key on my keyboard to bring up my loop and I move over the top of the head here, you can see that when I release my mouse to see the after, we have a little bit of haloing going on around the edges. This can be dealt with using the blur trace bounds right over here. If I go ahead and decrease this to, let's say, somewhere around 20, Photoshop is going to reanalyze that area with a smaller blur trace bound, and you're going to notice that we have a much smaller halo effect. Now down below we also have smoothing and artifact suppression. Once again, if I press Q on my keyboard to bring up my loop, you may notice there's a lot of smoothing going on, but I might want it a little bit sharper, which may produce a little bit of noise, but I'm not too concerned about that as I'm only uploading this photo to Facebook. So pressing Q to get rid of my loop, I'm going to decrease the smoothing just a little bit, somewhere around, let's say, 15. And Photoshop is going to apply that change and sharpen up the image a little bit more. So once again, if we go to our before and then our after, we can see that Photoshop has done a pretty nice job at sharpening up the image. And if we press OK, Photoshop is going to apply that to our image. And once again, we have our before and our after. Let me zoom in just a little bit. There's our before and there's our after. It's not a miracle worker. You're not going to get super sharp, perfect looking images. But if you're just looking to sharpen up the image just a little bit to reduce that camera shake and then upload the photo to Facebook, it's going to be great. Let me show you one more example. Here's a photo of an elephant. Obviously, you can tell if we zoom in, we have a little bit of camera shake going on. So once again, filter, sharpen, shape reduction, and Photoshop is going to start to analyze the photo to determine which direction the blur is coming from. And in just a moment, you're going to see the final result. And there it is. Just by launching the filter, we already have a nice result. But I'm going to go ahead and decrease the smoothing a little bit. It did smooth that out a little bit too much for my liking. And then here's the before, and here's the after. So if you have any images that suffer a little bit from camera shake, you may want to take it into Photoshop CC and try out the new shake reduction feature. You may be surprised at the results you're going to get. Again, it's not a miracle worker and it won't fix out of focus images. But for subtle camera shake, the new shake reduction feature in Photoshop CC is going to work great.
If you give me 45 seconds, I'm going to tell you how photographer Tanya here.
And that's it. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you, Rex.
I thought it would help. It's not that hard to use. I'm sure sooner or later everybody has an image that is pretty good, but just maybe off a little bit, and taking it over to shake reduction might actually help it.
Yep. Okay. All right, guys. Anything else? All right. If there's nothing else, those of you that are going on Saturday, I will see you Saturday. Those of you who are not, sorry. We'll miss you.
We have good weather, Brian.
Yeah, we're hoping for it, hopefully. I guess our next get together at this point would be
The 13th.
no.
All right. The Wednesday before the 13th.
Your Lightroom's next Wednesday, your Photoshop class?
Yeah, will be next Wednesday will be the first installment of Photoshop.
Yeah, it's
If I can just find someone that knows Photoshop and can teach it, we'll be in good shape. We'll work on it. I don't know that we can teach Photoshop in a few weeks.
Teach pieces of it.
Well, we're going to look at some pieces of it. So we'll start go through some stuff, and so I think we'll spend the majority of our time talking about layers, because that's pretty much what Photoshop does and does really well.
You really need to, well, how can I put this nicely? I've had a few of the members said that they would like to know what all the tools do. From selection tool, move tool.
I agree. I would like to know what all the tools do too.
They're not real hard, so that's
We're going to work on them.
We can do a little bit at a time.
Yep, we're going to work on them. So, anyhow, that'll be next Wednesday. That'll be our first of those. So, if I don't see you on Saturday, I will see those of you that join us next Wednesday.
See you Saturday, Brian. Thanks.
Okay, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Y'all have a good weekend.
Thank you for helping out there at the beginning.
I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay, I'll keep my phone close to me. Signing off, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
I'll see y'all later.
Night, Rob.